Welcome to Business Mentorship Keeping It Real. My name's Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in shareyourstories.online. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Scott Carrothers of Foolproof Bookkeeping. He has a niche market business with an online solution for restaurateurs. Scott joins us today from Hamilton. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Trish. It's great to talk to you again here.
You know what? I am really curious because when I was reading your bio or the story that you shared on the guest blog, one of the things that you mentioned was a Red Seal chef. So I want to hear, what the heck is a Red Seal chef? Because I have no idea what that means.
It's just the Journey Person certification in Canada. So cooking is still considered a trade by the Ministry of Training. So just like becoming a certified electrician or plumber, you can become a certified chef or cook.
So it's like number of hours that you've been in the kitchen as well as class time and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's an apprenticeship like all of the others. So probably I'd say a little bit easier than becoming an electrician. But yeah, you go through class time and hours, and then you write a test, and that's it. You get it for life. You know, one of the strange things about the chef one is that you get it for life. You don't have to upgrade. It's not like, they don't change the cooking standards the way they change electrical and plumbing standards.
Right. So you don't have to actually have like continuing education units every year in order to maintain your license or anything like that.
No, that's right.
Interesting. Now, I know you've had a really very colorful career in the restaurant business. So you started off as a chef, and then you went into teaching, and then you kind of went to back of the house, as they call it, into the administration side of the business. So tell us, what was the light bulb moment that you had where you felt that you wanted to start the journey of being a chef?
I guess my life in general isn't light bulb moments so much. The whole thing, I describe it in the story. It's dimmer switches for me. Things happen slowly. It takes a while.
I love that word. I love that word.
So for me, I went to university in Waterloo, and I had worked in health food there, and was in the health food industry for a number of years. I had cooked in high school, like in some local pubs in Woodstock, and basically what it came down to is I decided to move to London for some reason after Waterloo, and I couldn't find a job in the health industry. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be cooking, I might as well get my papers and make more money and, work my way up. And, if you want to be a head chef at a big hotel, you need your Red Seal and a bunch of other stuff, in your back pocket. So that was kind of it for me. It was just one of those like, well, if this is what I'm going to do, then I might as well do a better job of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to you, because, there are, as you say, numbers of different, we all go to restaurants, right? There's everything from, food trucks now to, 5-star hotels or Michelin rated star hotels. So the journey of being a chef can be wide and varied. So kudos to you for making the commitment to become a Red Seal chef. Now, tell your dimmer switch, as to use your own terminology there. Tell me a little bit about why you decided to open Foolproof Bookkeeping.
So that's a bit of a long story. I'll keep it short for you. But basically, as you described my career, cooking and chefing, and I worked for a national chain managing the training department, and I taught at Fanshawe College for a number of years, and ended up working in operations for a restaurant group here in Hamilton. And then the group kind of grew and grew, as they opened more locations. It was like, wow, somebody needs to really start paying attention to the numbers here, because, things can go sideways quickly. So, and in my whole chef career, I had been focused on the numbers. I'm good at running a kitchen and making it profitable and understanding labor and cost of goods and that kind of thing. So I was like, well, I guess I'll do it. And then if I'm going to do it, then I better understand it better. So I enrolled in McMaster in the accounting program, and started doing those courses. And as I was doing them, it turned out that it's something that I enjoyed doing. And, most people don't enjoy accounting. So when you do, you automatically have a bit of a niche there.
Yeah.
And it just kind of progressed from there. And then I started doing the books for a couple of my friends on the side who had their own businesses and just needed a little bit of help and that kind of stuff. And then at some point, it just, I've had my own business before a couple of times. In my first one, I was a partner in a business, and then I had started up a manufacturing business, which I eventually sold. And So I knew I always wanted to get back to working for myself. I really enjoy it. I like the lifestyle, the flexibility, and I just needed to figure out what that business model was going to be. And bookkeeping works for me because I can do it from anywhere in the world. I can do it at any time of day. If I wake up early or I'm staying up late or I want to take a Tuesday off, I can work on a weekend. And the model just really works for my life. And it's the kind of work that I enjoy and that I'm good at, and that I can train other people to do, which I think is a key for, building a firm.
For sure.
So it's kind of how it came about.
So, what's really interesting is that it's an online solution for restaurateurs, obviously. So you've chosen the niche of continuing to provide services to folks in an industry that you're very familiar with. So let's say that I own a restaurant and I'm struggling with the books and I'm, having lots of difficulty. I can't find somebody to do it and I don't have time. And as you say, most folks who are in the creative end of the business, like the cooking, certainly do not want to pick up the pencil with a big eraser and start doing the books. It's like, that's the last thing they want to do. So what types of things would you tell me that you could do for me that would be different than me hiring just, someone to come into my restaurant and do the books, a couple times a week or once a week?
I mean, I guess, one of the first things I do is I get rid of all the paper. Everything goes digital. So, even your paper invoices and stuff, you only store them for 3 months when you're working with me, as opposed to 7 years. Like you have to,
Wow.
I mean, we store them digitally for 7 years.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
We got the CRA covered. That's a big thing,
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of my clients can't stand all the legislation and regulation. So a big part of what I cover off is, making sure that all the filings are done, that everything you need to do for the government is up to date and current. And then, the key difference that I bring to the table from other bookkeepers who have moved to the cloud is that I understand the business. Right. When I'm looking at invoices, I know what they mean. I know what they're for. I know if you're running a bar that those lines aren't, a cost associated with food. They're a cost associated with selling cocktails. And I know how to categorize things properly. I can expedite the process, speed things up. I understand your labor, your payroll. So when we're reviewing the financials, which I review financials with all my clients, I'm not just sending you a P&L and a balance sheet and saying, here, I don't know what it means, good luck, or here's your cost of goods, but I have no idea what the industry standard is or the standard for your style of restaurant or bar or whatever. So I understand those. I work with a lot of other restaurants and bars and food service providers. So I know what's happening in the industry. I see the trends. I follow it. I can say, oh, you had a bad couple of weeks, but so did everybody else. I don't know what happened. I don't know exactly why, but you're in line with what's going on in the industry as a whole. And those are the kinds of things I can bring to the table that, somebody, and not knocking it. There's lots of great bookkeeping firms out there that have, that do work for 25 or 30 different industries, but it's not something I want to do. I don't want to try and learn that many different industries. And I know I can't provide expert advice. And that's ultimately what it comes down to is, you got to have clean records, and then you've got to get good advice and make good decisions based on those records. And that's what I can help restaurateurs.
That is so important for sure, because, lots of folks think that the restaurant business is easy, right? Oh, I'll just get a shingle. I'll buy some, cooking equipment, and, I'll hire a chef and, buy food, and everybody's going to, take my mom's recipes and everyone's going to love what I do. But there's so much more to the business than just having a great chef and, finding a super location. So I love the fact that you're providing folks with some of your experience and you take a look at the industry trends. That's a really great point, in that you take a look at what's happening in the industry, and then you can help folks decide where they need to pivot in the business. So you're not just doing the books, you're almost providing them with some coaching opportunities as well.
Yeah, I try to. And I mean, it's not like, without being pushy, like I'm not going to tell you how to run your business, but I can tell you what the numbers mean. And if you're trying to make changes, I can help you understand how effective those changes have been or are going to be. And, I also do some forecasting and cash flow analysis and that kind of stuff. So if you're thinking of making changes or opening another location or doing that kind of stuff, I can work pretty closely with people to help them understand what the bank account's going to look like when they do those things. Yeah.
So tell us, I mean, we're just coming out of obviously a really difficult time for folks in the restaurant business. And, it's no secret that everybody's, wrestling with, I'm sure, future planning, because they're trying to recoup some of the losses that they've had over the last few months. So in terms of your colleagues, I'm sure you have, brainstorming sessions, and you're talking about industry standards and what are we looking for the future. So what's the forecast for, say, the next 3 to 6 months in your industry?
I think the next 3 to 6 months are going to be okay. The interesting part comes for a lot of people about a year from now. A lot of these loans that the government gave out are coming due, and they, some of them are pretty good in that they can roll over into other term loans. But it's more about, okay, you've been able to scrape through and get by, and you got some wage subsidies, but that's kind of winding down, and
Right.
you got some rent subsidies, but that's over now, and these loan programs are kind of over now, and when that money starts coming due, it's like if you're used to a business that, if you're doing well, is operating at a 5% profit margin, and now you have to repay this debt, that's where the struggle is going to be for a lot of people. And if you don't have a good plan on how you're going to do that, and you don't understand the full structure of what these loan programs are, because they're a little bit complicated.
I was going to say, I'm sure they're not easy to understand.
No, it's then you can put yourself in a bad position. So you might be feeling like things are okay right now, but we're going to get into January and sales are going to dip again, and
Right.
And then you're going to have to start figuring out how you're going to handle your cash flow. So I think the next few months will be okay. A year from now, we'll probably see some more closures. And then, of course, in Ontario, they just announced the increase in minimum wage again. So your server wage is going to go up by almost 20%, and which is half of your
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be a big hit. So,
Yeah.
Doug's trying to win an election, and the restaurants are going to take another hit for it. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I love the forecasting that you do, because I think everybody in the entrepreneurial world is taking a look at the sort of 3, 6, 9 month plan. Whereas before we were able to plan longer, it would be a year. You'd look from year to year. But I think, to your point, you need to be a little more strategic and shrink that time down to something that's a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I've got lots of clients who are like, month to month, we're adjusting things and taking a look at it, because things have changed. Things are changing so quickly.
So quickly, yeah. Yeah.
Depending on where you are and the regulations that are in that area.
So tell me a little bit about, everyone has a sweet spot in terms of the type of client base that they find is the most of interest to them. Because we try to attract like-minded folks. You've picked a niche market. You know a lot about that industry. You can help in so many different ways. So if I was a restaurateur and I was looking for someone like yourself, because you're providing so much more than just taking a look at the numbers, what are some of the things in my business that I would review before I reached out to you?
Well, that's a good question. That's actually one I don't get a lot. I mean, I've got a full list of questions that I usually ask people, and that gets them going. But even the type of business that you've started, whether you're incorporated or a partnership, makes a big difference in how you're going to operate things. I mean, what should you be looking at internally? First, you want to see if your records are accurate. If you're not getting clean books, then it's irrelevant. Any decisions you base off them are not relevant. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that the information that you're seeing is correct. And if it's not, then you've got a problem, and then you need to do something about it. If it is, then maybe you just need a little more support or advice or coaching or consulting or something. But the first thing that you need to do is, I guess the easiest way to do it is to look at your bank statement and look at your balance sheet. And does the balance sheet match the bank statement? And if it doesn't, you've got a problem.
Then you have to dig a little deeper, right?
Yeah, and I say that, and I know it's kind of like a no-brainer, but it's amazing to me how many times I get new clients because things are such a mess, and it's like, oh, the balance sheet shows that I've got negative $50,000, but I obviously don't. And it's like, well, how did we get here?
Yeah. One of the other things I think too is, entrepreneurship, when we're coming out of a challenging time, sometimes we push those things to the side because, well, I'll leave that till the end of the month or next month, because, I'm kind of running at Mach 2 with my hair on fire right now, and I'm just trying to get myself back into the groove. So I'll push the numbers to the back and they'll take care of themselves. So that's a really good point. You have to sort of take the time, or make the time, to start to compare those numbers. That's a really great point. One of the things that we mentioned in the guest blog is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. And your 3 words are read, listen, and systemize. So tell us why those 3 words are so important, not only for you, but for the clients that you work with.
Yeah. Okay. So reading, I mean, I think that if you're going to be servicing any industry, you need to be on top of it and you need to be aware of what's going on currently. And I think reading is just a valuable thing in general. I mean, I read several newspapers every day, and as well as subscribe to a lot of industry blogs and things like that. And kind of stuff. I think it's important to understand, where the economy is going in general, where an industry is going in general, what the next trends are likely to be in that industry. If you're going to service, especially like me, if you're going to niche and you're going to focus on, just a few industries, you need to be a bit of an expert in those industries. And it's not enough to say, I worked in restaurants for 20 years, so therefore 10 years from now, I'll still know what's going on. You have to stay current and stay on top of it. And in the world of bookkeeping and finance and government regulations, they also change all the time. So you have to be aware of what the new standards are and what the reporting needs to be. So I think reading is a big part of my job, and it's often factor into my day when I'm like blocking out hours, but I spend a lot of time reading, and it's an important thing, I think, for a lot of people. And restaurateurs as well. I mean, all the good restaurateurs I know are reading cookbooks all the time if they're chefs, or they're staying on top of the trends as well, not just going to trade shows, but reading a lot of articles and subscribing to blogs and podcasts and all that kind of stuff.
Great.
Listen for me is just about understanding what, I think I know what most restaurants need in terms of their books, but it might not be true, and it definitely is going to change over time. So I try to, every time I have a conversation with my clients about their financials or their statements or whatever, it's just listening to what their pain points are, and then understanding, do I have the skill set and the know-how to help solve those? Or if I don't, do I know somebody that I can refer them to? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want everybody to be successful. If my clients are successful, then I'm successful and everybody moves forward. So just trying to understand their pain points, and people often don't come right out and tell you. It's part of the conversation, and it's just part of listening and paying attention to what's on their mind. And then systems, for me are key. In the restaurant business itself, systems are key. You've got to have good systems for all of your prep and your service. And it's the same with bookkeeping. And it's the same, I think, with any business if you plan on scaling it. Like if I was just going to be an independent and I was going to bookkeep just myself, I wouldn't need that many systems. I'd make life a bit easier. But if I want to be able to add staff and employees and make sure that everybody's getting that high level of service that I promise when I bring you on, I need systems and processes in place to make it happen. And I think that's the case with most businesses.
I think that's very true. And, I love the fact that you have incorporated and brought some systems into your own business based on your experience, but also based on the idea that you're providing a service that's far beyond just the numbers. So kudos to you. I'm sure there's lots of folks in your industry that will seek out the services of your particular company, because you do so much more than just concentrate on the numbers. So I certainly wish you all the best in your future endeavors as you expand your business. But you'll have to come back on in another year when you can tell me a little bit about the expansion of Foolproof Bookkeeping. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Trish.
To the viewing and listening audience, I hope you enjoyed our discussion today as we introduced you to the person behind the logo. And if you would like to share your story with us, please visit the website shareyourstories.online. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.